Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inner Circle podcast. We have an amazing guest. Rob Spera is with us today, and he is a film and television director. He's done feature films, he's done episodic television, and he's written an amazing book, and he's a teacher at AFI. And we are going to talk about his background, his approach to storytelling, how he works with actors in episodic television. We're going to dive into our purpose and our approach in creating a 5-year plan that is all about really having you focus on product and what you're putting out. We're also going to dive into the mystery of the silent take, as well as the psyche of how to interview as a director of photography coming in front of a director. And we're also going to dive into Rob's book that I'm telling you, this is a page burner. All right, let's get into it. So, my God, you have really run the gamut, Rob. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. It's really a great opportunity.
Yeah. When we got the whole email, I was like, who is this guy? Oh, my God. Brendan, reach out immediately. So I'm very excited to have you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
We are so grateful for your level of expertise and can't wait to dive in.
Excellent. Yeah.
So let's start with a little bit more about you. Why don't you tell us what you think is interesting for directors, for people to know about your background and kind of how you got to where you are today?
Sure. So started out as an actor, trained as an actor under Sanford Meisner in New York. And what I discovered is that I was a character actor and I was not going to come into my own for another 20 years. So at 22, it was like not a good plan. So I decided to start producing theater in New York so I could act. As I produced, I learned to direct, and that's where I thought, oh, I get it. This is what I want to do. So pretty much left acting behind immediately and started to direct. And, I essentially quit the business and started, I thought I'd just have to focus on generating work, creating work, not looking for work. And that was really a key for me that I've kind of carried on for my entire career, where it's just looking at, I don't want to be looking for jobs or asking for jobs. I want to be spending my day every day working at it. And in that case, it required, designing a lifestyle that I could actually not spend time working a real job, right? Working, bartending or waiting tables. So I started to teach, right? And I don't know what the hell I was teaching back then, but I taught it. And I got, 10 of my friends who were bitching about not having work. I said, listen, I'm going to teach you a class. You're in the class. I'm the teacher. You're the student. You shut up and let's go. And I said, if someone that you recommended to wants to come and take the class, I'll charge them, but it's free for you. So that started me teaching and fed into my directing, and just I needed to learn, right? And it's very hard, as we all know, to find opportunities, especially in film where it requires so much money and time and other people. I needed to be working at it on a daily basis and making sure in my early 20s, I was getting really good at understanding how it all worked and not simply spending my time becoming a professionally unemployed filmmaker or theater actor or director. So and from that, I also began forging these 5-year plans that I stick to. I still do them because most of us enter the industry with the belief that, if I ask most of my students, I'll say, so what's your plan? And they say, well, essentially, write a great script. I said, okay, that's good. And get into Sundance and make a great movie and never stop working. I said, love the plan. But it doesn't always work. So what is the real plan? How are we going to go day to day, week to week, year to year, right? Over the course of your lifetime, because we don't want to just be doing this for a few years. We've got to be able to cobble together, right, an approach that's going to sustain you, allow you to pivot, allow you to understand how the industry is changing and what you bring to it, and come up with a real cohesive working plan that is going to support you for the rest of your life. I tell them there's no business person in the world who would invest a nickel without a plan. And yet we as artists, right, we continually, right, toss ourselves at the winds, right, and say, yeah, okay, I don't know what's coming. I don't demand any profits. So we've got to demand profits on a year, even if those profits are not monetary, they're education, right? They're getting better at what you do, but we've got to have some control over those profits. And so once I launched into theater directing, and quit the business, I never stopped working, essentially. And I work all over the country, some abroad as a theater director. And then I just was going broke, essentially, in the theater, and decided to make a shift to film, involved in another 5-year plan, ended up at the American Film Institute. And my 5-year plan for film, right, was to be directing my first film within 5 years. I did that within the 2 years of the 5-year plan because the plans are really well thought out. They don't rely on just praying or chanting or it's
or meditate.
I'm meditating. Let's do what's the plan and how does this work? And what's critical is when I got to AFI, I was a theater director. I had zero clues about film, and I was failing. I was the worst person in my class. My first film at AFI is the worst film in AFI history, definitely, world history, most likely, and interplanetary history. If there's some sentient beings on another planet making movies, it's the worst there too. But it opened the door to, all right, understanding the importance of failure, understanding the importance of committing to the work and making sure that you're constantly learning and growing. And so at AFI, at the 2-year program there gave me a lot of great skills. Directed that first feature within the 2-year period, and then went off and approached the industry in the same way I approached the theater. I wanted to just be shooting. So if you sent me, a copy of the U.S. tax code, all right, I would dramatize it and shoot it. I didn't care. I would do it. I would find a way to do it because I wanted to be shooting. And in the beginning, I counted my successes based on how many camera setups I did a year. So I figure if I can, every time I set the camera, I'm getting better at this. And so I wasn't looking at, I need to be famous. I need to be making a ton of money. I was looking at how can I educate myself? Because there are too many moving parts in a movie, right? That you can't master it that easily.
Wow. Well, Rob, I just have to cut in on you there because, we could just let you go and Shane and I can just.
Sorry.
No,
that's a good educator. That's
so good. And there's so much I want to drill down into.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So, first of all, what you're really talking about is your coaching in addition to teaching. And I love this 5-year plan. And let's drill down for our members and people listening so that they really understand, because I think so many times people make goals
Right.
for themselves. And goals are actually very problematic if not done well, and goals can really inhibit your own creativity.
Correct.
So what is your 5-year plan? Like, give us an example of how you set it up, if you would, and how you create it, because I think that this is so important.
Yeah. I think the 5-year plan, most important for me was that it had to be product oriented. And I didn't consider a screenplay a product, right? That's a step to a product, right? You've got to do that. You need a script to shoot, but the product has to be a movie, right? Or a TV show or something that you can actually show someone. That's what I didn't like about theater. I had no product, right? Something would run for 6 weeks. I could think it was great. I could not show it to the next producer who wanted to hire me. So I thought theater was really limiting because I couldn't move fast enough. I wanted to have a product I could show. I could also show my own growth, right? I could actually use that, but you have to be product oriented. And whether that's a 3-minute film, a 2-minute film, a 30-minute film, you've got to be shooting regularly. I know in my book, there are some, and we were talking about is some short exercise that can, hey, well done. Thanks for doing that. They're short exercise that can be achieved with a minimal amount of work each week that you should be doing like you do anything you want to improve in, right? Short, steady bursts that are going to actually change, right, and improve the way you understand filmmaking. Because we can't all wait to make a short film, right, or a feature, right? There are too many elements out that come together at the right time, or a lot of money behind it. So how are we getting the same experience that our painters get, that our dancers get, that our musicians get, right? And a real violinist, a world-class violinist, is playing 8 to 10 hours a day.
Yes.
Right. Let's try to find a director, right, who has had that kind of, right, work ethic. And so we've got to meet them somehow, some way, so that we're doing the job. We can't expect that we're going to direct a short film and we'll be launched, right, to greatness, right? Because most likely we won't have the stuff, right, to keep it together for 40 years. How do we generate? So I don't want to just do this for a few years. I want to get up every day. My dad get up every day and he went to the factory and went to work. He came home at night. That's the life I wanted to live, right? Where I can just get up every day, do what I love to do, and come home at night, right? Have a family, do those things. Then you have to build that, though. I don't think those things happen accidentally. So the plan is about being product oriented first. And in that product, you're trying to find, you have the wish list product that are going to require some additional help, right? A studio finds your script and wants to make it. A producer gets behind it, but there's got to be elements of that product, right, category that is going to allow you to execute by yourself no matter what, right? Those no matter what projects are how we assure that we're going to make growth and we have product to promote ourselves with.
Okay,
Right?
so could you give us an example from the director's standpoint and maybe from the DP standpoint for this? Because I think the specificity here really matters
Key.
because it's an internal motivation and then it's a time management. It is carving out the time. So whether it's every day for 1 hour, every day for 2 hours, whatever you
That's correct.
can afford to do in your schedule.
That's right.
And so what would a specific example of this be?
In terms of the types of products?
Yes.
Well, if you're looking to direct feature films, let's say that's your target, right? There's going to be part of your day spent writing. Part of your day is got to be spent reaching out to the industry, something that, we all just cold calls, right? Where I give those to my students and I give it to them as an assignment. I said, you have to call 3 new people, right? Each week is the assignment. And at first they're against it and they don't see the value in it. And I said, it's the assignment. So just do it. And they're stunned at how the industry is willing to open for them and how people are willing to pull them in and be supportive. And one of my students was having a heck of a time. He was several tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. Came here, did AFI, really talented director, could not really get ahead. And we gave him the cold call assignment. He couldn't break through, right? So I said, listen, just tell the truth. When you call someone up, right, tell them the truth. And he called this producer who we all know, right, to name, and he works all the time with one specific director who we all know. He's right at the very top of the pecking order. He called him and basically left this message. I'm an AFI grad, and I'm just starting out in the industry. To be honest, it's an assignment. I'm supposed to ask you a few questions, but I don't even know what fucking questions to ask you. So call me. And within 45 minutes, that producer called him. They spoke for an hour. While they're talking, he said, hold on, I got to bring my office staff in here. Brings his office staff into what I assume was his office or the conference room. They talked for another hour to the entire group. He connected him to that director, and that director is now his mentor, and he has a project with them. So it's about part of your day you're creating. Part of the day is actually reaching out to create opportunities, and not wait for for the industry to act on you, right? We've got to act on them, right? And part of that, though, one of the reasons we are also resistant to it is the step before we even get to the planning is we have to identify what the hell they're in the industry for. Movies are message delivery systems, right? We're hoping to impact, right, other humans on a mass scale, right? And movies can do that, right? We can change the way people think and view themselves. And if you don't understand if you're doing that to make a lot of money or to be cool or to be famous, you'll work for a while. But if you really want to actually have impact, you got to know what the hell are you doing? So that's where I bring into the Fisher King wound, right, idea, because it helps them to drill down to what their purpose is. What is your purpose? Why the hell are you taking this risk, right, with your life? Right, you're going to invest the best years of your life with no guarantee. Why? What's the point? So getting them to understand their purpose. Once you understand your purpose, you have no problem picking up the phone. You realize, right, it's a necessity for you to pick up the phone. You've got something to share. It's not just about getting a job. I think that's really key. So understanding their purpose, right, then they're going to spend part of their day creating, part of their day reaching out, right? And then part of the day should be actually what we do, shoot, right? Whether you're doing exercises, you have a short film, you're working with actors, you're setting up, you're trying to spend a day that's fully creative, right? And exposed to the ideas, and you're getting better and better and better every day.
And again, this can feel daunting, right? Where you're working and how do I squeeze this in?
Right.
And how am I going to find the time to do all of this? I think it's really the ritual that is so important. And it's not as much about the amount of specific time.
Correct.
Because time is the thing that is our number one obstacle.
Right.
I don't have time.
Correct.
And your brain tricks you into and really plays all sorts of games around time.
That's correct. Yeah. So small, steady bursts over a long period
of time.
So, my business class is called that, right? Career strategies, the long game. We've got to invest time in it. It's not going to be a year. You can't say, "Oh, I'll give it a year." It just doesn't happen in a year, right? Even if some studio were to call any of us today and say, "I want to make your movie," we're still 3 years away from the screening if we're lucky, right?
Yeah.
So that's the speed it moves at.
Yeah, I find that, shooting movies and commercials and stuff, then when we started Filmmakers Academy, I saw this as sharpening my sword.
Absolutely.
And I didn't see it as like everyone wanted to paint it as I'm educating, so I must be retiring or I'm done with the industry.
Exactly.
I said, no, I'm educating because I want to sharpen my sword. I learn from all of these shadow members every day.
That's right.
Just as much as I share the knowledge. There's some thing that they say or do or show me that inspires me. So we all fuel off of each other.
Absolutely.
And I think that is so important to, and we also had a writer on here that said that she makes it her time, that she makes sure that she writes an hour a day. That's all it is. She's obviously got 2 small kids and a family.
Even more than an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, writer,
10
director.
pages or whatever she
10
said.
10 pages
10
a
pages a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was what she would set as her goal.
Right.
And, some days they blew up, but at least, like you're saying, that 5-year plan is so important. And it's like, I find that reaching out is my hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Sure. Oh, for all of us.
Why is that so hard? It's so crazy. And it's like, because I'm very open to people. And
is it hard? I don't know. I don't find reaching out.
You don't find it hard at all. My God, you could talk to anything, and have no problem with that.
And what's so crazy is
that light was, he threw away. Oh, it's over there, Lydia. You could definitely have a very detailed conversation with that light.
I love people and I'm an introvert. And so it's really strange that reaching out is not hard for me.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people it is very difficult. And it's also because you're telling yourself how hard it is.
Right.
And it's like, oh
No,
man.
and this is something because
And you have to be
listening to
vulnerable.
what you said, I just realized that I have to do that more.
Yeah.
You know, I have to put myself out there and just push, because you're absolutely right. For you to wait for them to come to you is
It's
absolutely
not going to happen.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Okay, so let's talk downtime for a second, because while we're on the time subject
Sure.
and 5-year time period and 5-year plan, a lot of people right now, given where features are at, are finding themselves with quite a chunk of downtime. And how I think how we view downtime and use it is so critical. So, and this has to do with reaching out as well.
Sure.
Because just because there's downtime doesn't mean that the rituals stop,
Right.
right? So, how do you view downtime in between projects that you've had? And I'd also love to get into how you don't make work who you are.
Right. Yeah. Well, the downtime for me is, when I have to go shoot something for somebody else, right? For me, I'm living my life, right?
Hmm.
Doing the things I love to do, right? I'm not dictated. I don't invest too much in the vanity or popularity or the need to be liked or loved or embraced by the industry, right? My joy comes from doing what I do. I can do that alone in a room. I can do that with two actors. For me, the downtime is really when I go off to do somebody else's, right,
Hmm.
job and project. All right. So that my life continues is when I'm shooting as well as when I'm not shooting. So the downtime is how do you build not just a career or how do you make a living? It's how do you build an artistic life? Right. That is really the goal, I think, for all of us is how do you build a life that is going to support you as an artist, but also make you a great dad or a great, husband or wife or partner or whatever, right? How do you build an artistic life? And that has to be built. I don't think you can rely on it happening accidentally, right? You make choices that are going to inform that. And so for me, there's downtime from when I'm being paid to work for someone, right? But it's really my artistic life that I'm living, right? Within that, there's still my investment in what I love to do. I don't consider it really a career; it's a calling, and in as unpretentious way as possible, right? It's just like for whatever reason, right? I like spending my time doing this work and I want to do more of it and I want to share it. I want to be able to teach it and share it with people. So I think that is, downtime has got to be looked at as not the negative thing that many people think. So, well, it means I'm not making money. But we're enriching ourselves, right? We're going to make sure we're enriching ourselves in that period where someone's not employing you, which is a lot of the time, right? We spend, for the most part, more time in downtime,
Yes.
than we do when we're actually working, right? TV, I probably spend more consistent periods of work because they're 3 or 4 weeks and you got 5 or 6 episodes, right? In 6 months or 8 months and there's more consistency, but we're down most of the time. And how you treat that time is really, I think, the key to success because what I always try to preserve is my pilot light as an artist. And my pilot light is fed by the work. And the more often I do the work, the brighter my pilot light is. And when I'm not doing the work, that can get very dim. And if we allow it to go out, we're finished, right? It's hard to jumpstart that again to get that lit. But even in my early 20s, I read back some old journals and I said, do not let your pilot light ever go out. And I think that's key. But that's building an artistic life and making sure it's not just about money or getting ahead or box office, or being liked by a lot of people. It's simply doing what you love to do, and making sure you do it in the time that you have.
So I love that so much. Maya Angelou has a great quote where, and I can't remember it exactly, but it says, don't pursue the money. You have to love what you do,
Right.
and pursue something with such excellence that people cannot take their eyes off of you.
Yeah.
And I love that,
Yeah,
because
right.
it all gets down to your intention, which is exactly what you're speaking to.
Correct.
And the intention is to build the artistic lifestyle.
Right.
And you almost have to believe that the money piece takes care of itself. And I don't mean that in a naive way.
Correct.
Because I'm the first person that understands the struggle and how stressful it is, and where our economy is. So I'm not trivializing that. But I think that if we make it all about the money, we lose that essence of the intention.
Right. Intention's a great word.
And then we grasp and feel desperate in the energetic pursuit of, like, I have to do this because I have to earn the money.
Right.
And then we make really poor choices for our artistic soul and regret a lot of times. And I think the two of you could speak to this.
Oh my God. I mean, there were times when, Lydia was like, when we had kids, it's like going out of town was like the worst thing that could happen. Right. So it was like, okay, I got to try and find a movie in town. That was a lot easier than it is now.
This is a lot of years ago.
This was in the 1990s and 2000s, where there was actually still a lot of production going on in Los Angeles. So I was taking projects that I didn't necessarily have the passion, even though I tried to still fire it up. But it was based on me staying in Los Angeles so I could be and support her and take care of our kids. And so they knew who their dad was. So I wasn't constantly on location. And that was a huge, it was hard, because I wanted to be my best, and the project necessarily might not have been the best.
Correct.
So I didn't feel filled up creatively, but I did feel really supportive and being there with my family and everything for her and to help her. But then that kind of the pilot's light started to dim as well, because I wasn't on set was not the greatest experience. It wasn't the greatest work. So that was influencing my downtime at home.
Right.
So you really have to, there's a lot of really hard decisions that you have to make sometimes to support the family, that you just got to suck it up and go.
That's right, because you're looking about, you want to do it for your lifetime, right?
Yeah.
You need health insurance, right?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
You need it. Even artists need health insurance. You have to do it, and your ability to maintain your artist, soul through all of that, while you're actually able to support your family, and still stay excited about it. Right? I shot a lot of low budget, 20, 25 low budget movies. That the scripts are vacant, and
vacant. I love that.
I still approached every one of them as if I was going to take it to the Academy Awards.
Oh yeah. I was doing the same thing, but boy, it beats out.
Oh no, it's you have to practice it. Because the easiest thing to do is to bitch about it, right? But making sure you're doing your best work all the time, making sure you're seen doing your best work, I think is really critical.
And I think that the gratitude for the work supersedes everything.
Yep.
Because it might not be the coolest project in the world.
Right.
But it's allowing you to pay your bills. So many things in life it is working for. And so it's almost like getting out of your own egoic way,
That's right.
in a way, to allow yourself to really enjoy the process of it.
Right. Yeah, I think the first one that I took in town, I didn't do that. The second one, I was all into that.
Yeah.
Like I was into trying new things,
Right.
pushing the, doing things with film and processing and stuff that I had never done before.
Right.
So at least
Mhm.
as well as, what the script was, I was trying new things
Right.
to expand
That's right.
and educate myself.
Right.
And that's when it started to be fun. And then it's like trying to get the directors on board. They saw the excitement
That's right.
of feeling to do something
Mhm.
different. Like I remember this was one of these films was the crucial time between photochemical meets DI,
Right.
right? And that was a whole new world. And a lot of times these films didn't necessarily have the budget to do a full DI. And I was like, well, what if we try to do it a different way where we print the film, but then I go in and I telecine it like I would do a music video. And they're like, whoa, okay, that's different. And I'm like, yeah, so I'm kind of hampered a little bit, but at least I have some of the controls that are going to take the film and make it better.
That's right.
And so it's like that process was super unique, and it became like a hip process for indie films for 3 or 4 years until the transition started to be cheaper and the kind of standard that went forward. But it's like those kind of things where you just, I always try to think of myself, okay, how can I push myself out of this box in ways that's going to inspire the crew, to inspire the director and producing team to want to do things that are a little unique and different, even though the budget and the script don't necessarily point in that direction.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I'm not judging it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Just seeing it, what it is and how we can make it the best.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. And speaking of creativity, Rob, what's your creative process? I love hearing this from directors and from people that we interview because I think it's so inspirational.
Sure.
How did you uncover that? And I think this gets into the wound part that we were Fisher wound. So let's talk about that because it's fascinating. And again, Rob's book is Film and TV Directors Field Manual, and it's really brilliant in its simplicity and actionable and getting into action with specifics. So let's talk about this. If you could give us the history on this Fisher wound.
Fisher King wound. Yeah. The Fisher King was a character in 11th century literature,
right?
And the idea of Fisher King is that he suffers a flesh wound that never heals, right? It just keeps trickling blood. And when I read that, I thought, that's interesting. I wonder if we can apply that to what we do as artists. And so you always hear that, directors make the same movie over and over and over again. So I thought, well, maybe it's because we have this wound, right, that it's unresolved, right? It's not just that it's not physically trickling blood. It's just over years we have not resolved it. It's just there, and it keeps slowly just bleeding and draining us, right, of our lives, of our real energy. And so I started kind of hunting around in my own past, and I started to find there were events, not necessarily big dramatic events, sometimes tiny, small events in my life that created these filters or belief systems. And it's the belief system that really is the key. Understanding what the belief is, because the belief that we have is what guides all of our actions in life, right? So, and then I wanted to use that belief. I said, if someone has a belief, can I turn that into can make it actionable, right? As a as a filmmaker, right? As a writer, as a director. And I realized, yes, you have that belief, and that really becomes your voice, right? Your belief is your voice. For me, I'll give you a quick example. When I was about 5, my dad he worked in a factory. He and the guys were bitching about not being paid enough. He came home and told, we were all sitting around the table, like 15 of us. We ate dinner every night together, our Italian families. And he told a story that everyone was complaining. And that one guy said, well, how long do you think it would take for this place to really to replace you? Which they were convinced that if they left, the place would crumble. And the guy's answer was, put your hand in a bucket of water and take your hand out. The time that it takes for the water to fill in where your hand was, that's how long it'll take to replace you. And everybody at the table chuckled, and yeah, blah, 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 I get it. And for me at 5, I heard, I'm not working with people, I have my family. So I heard that as, you're not going to be remembered by anyone here, right? And I turned that inside even more into, nobody really loves you, right? Love doesn't exist, right? True love doesn't exist. And so that's became a cornerstone, right? Belief that I took into workplaces, into my personal relationships. So always this distance. And I realized, so my voice is really centered around love, but you don't need to make a movie about love. True love doesn't exist. What I do, when I'm at my best, I'm making movies where I prove that true love conquers all, that true love does exist, right? Because that's how I get to prove to myself that life is good, right?
Yeah.
And it's important, and love is important. So that's the message I want to give out. So it's a process of trying to find, we talked about it, had a lot of my teachers say, well, find your voice, go find your voice, go find your voice. And I thought, okay, how do I do that? And I was looking for an equation that I could apply to it. So it's Fisher-King wound, right, led to belief. And then from that belief, you can decide to make movies about that or flip it on its ear, right? And make movies that are going to be closer to what you want in the world, the kind of things you want to have happen. The other side of the Fisher-King wound is the gift that keeps on giving. You've experienced an event in your life that someone has gifted you with this incredible blessing that might have involved sacrifice on their part, right? And the belief grows out of that. So wound or gift, right? You're looking at, right, trying to dig down or drill down to the events that have shaped the filters in you, those belief systems, and then which of those belief systems are most important to you to share with the world.
And this is so fascinating because the wounding, and I've actually studied this a lot.
Oh, wow.
The wounding is always tied to our genius zone. And so excavating this, it is overcoming a wound and overcoming whatever horrible, awful circumstance that you went through in life. Or let's say for me, and I'll use myself as an example so people can really understand, as I was sharing with you, my mom had a lot of mental illness, and so she was present and gone, present and gone. So I didn't have consistency of having a mom.
Wow.
And that really led to a lot of personal insecurity that I overcame by constantly being the best and pushing myself beyond my capacity and proving to myself that I had to be the smartest person, that it overachieving to the point of giving myself spinal meningitis eventually. And so in this whole arc, what's really interesting is that overcoming all of that has now brought me to a place of solid understanding, not only to recognize it right away, but to also give that gift to the world, which is there's never a perfect work-life balance, but you have to be true to your soul and your gifts. And I help people prevent burnout now, really design a business and a life that is in balance and in their power zone. But I could never have gotten to this place in my life had I not been through the pain and suffering of all of that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, mine was that I was always like the weird kid, right? And I was never really accepted in the cliques and everything. And I was always, no one could really understand me. And I was really good at sports and all that stuff, but I was bullied like crazy.
Yeah.
And I was always the kid that just was different.
Right.
And I had a different perspective. And I kind of took that as, when anyone would tell me, well, Shane, you can't do that. Oh my God, I was going to prove them completely wrong that I could, because I was not accepted at all in grade school and high school. And that became my war song.
Right.
It's like, okay, I go in, I'll never forget when I was starting to have this idea of how I would shoot Act of Valor. I would go around and ask a lot of my peers, do you think it's possible to shoot with this little still camera? And they're like, what are you talking about, Shane? A still camera? You can't shoot a movie with a still camera. That's all I needed. That's all I needed. I was going to reinvent the whole system, right? But yeah, that wound has really driven me as an artist. And that's where you have to find that.
Right.
And almost continue to throw gasoline on it, right?
Right. And that's what I mean, because it is honestly the pain and the working through it so that you really understand it is honestly where your genius lies in it.
That's right. That's where the gold is.
Yes.
Right? And that's where you can't ignore that. It's where what you want to do is identify it, right? And then understand how to make it work for you
in a really practical way. So how do you, as a director, work with actors around this and on set, and let's say with crew members? Because the truth is, people get triggered all the time.
Right. And one of the things that I loved about your book, like whether it was the first chapter, is be kind.
Mm-hmm. Most important. Yeah.
Most important.
Number one.
Yeah. And I love that, because I think a lot of times, the industry is changing.
Right.
For the good.
Right.
But there's been times where it's a screaming match, and it's chaos, and it's disrespect, and it's all these things.
Yeah.
Not only have I experienced it, I've been one to delve it out sometimes.
Right.
And these are the kind of things that, I'm changing as well. And that really struck a chord with me, because I've really tried to be that all the time.
Right.
It's like every morning, how you guys doing today? I mean, I would go into accounting and even talk to them. It's like, it became like,
we need it.
Oh yeah. But it's like, I started this mantra as, when you walk on set, everyone says, hey, Shane, how you doing?
Yeah.
I only utter 2 words, freaking fantastic.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Right.
And it sets a tone.
That's right.
And that's that whole be kind thing.
That's right. Yeah. I think we're at the core of all of this is we're trying to capture these frail human, emotions, trying to capture the human experience. So you can't set out on that journey and at the same time treat everyone around you like shit.
Right.
It starts before you even roll cameras, and you've got to be treating the people around you with decency, with kindness, with respect, because then you'll get the best out of them. Then they can really contribute to the work at hand. And if you're coming at it, and if you're using it as an opportunity to inflate your ego, to inject your weaknesses on the people around you, it's counterproductive to the work, and it's a world I don't want to live in. I don't want to spend. You have an opportunity. For me, the most important thing about, separate from the mission of the film, the vision that I have for the film, just as importantly or more importantly, is that I'm now part of this little mini society coming together. How can we shape it so that it is a beautiful place to be, We have this mission. We're creating art. We're so fucking blessed, I want to make sure.
Yeah, it's like a wonderful family.
That's right. And you want to support it. And you want to make sure that it's a place that you'd want your kids to come and visit. It's a place that you want to encourage people and empower them.
When
So,
it's set,
wait, oh,
okay.
oops, go.
No, when it's set feels like that,
Yeah.
it is so intoxicating.
It is. That's the word. It's
It's
intoxicating.
absolutely intoxicating. It's intoxicating with creativity.
Right.
It's intoxicating with positivity.
Right.
It's like you have a bounce in your step. You got that smile.
Yeah.
That is when I find that it's been the most amazing moments.
You can do no wrong, right? The work it seems to flow from you.
Right.
Right. At that point.
And the instincts that you choose
That's right.
flow.
That's right.
Like the instincts that you're like, you would have maybe second guessed it. It
Right.
just flows. And you're like, whoa, I remember lighting a night exterior on this last movie, and I threw it up there in regards to where I thought everything would come in. And right before we were going to shoot, I just had this instinct to change the color tones in the background to what the street lights were in the foreground. And that created almost like this magical, like impressionistic painting.
Wow.
And I remember the director going, "Whoa, what are you doing there, Shane? Whatever that is." I go, "I'm Todd Hitoing the shit out of this," right? Because he's a still photographer that I follow, and he does these weird mixed tones. And it just flowed from me at that moment.
Okay, the reason that is happening on a neuroscience perspective is because the brain feels safe. And when the brain feels safe and you're not in limbic brain fight or flight mode, your creativity is enhanced by a lot.
Wow.
And so that is exactly why you need to have that on set.
Yes.
And I'm going to throw a curveball in Utopia and ask you, okay, so you're on Criminal Minds or I know you've done a lot of TV, but it's really hard to get a relaxed atmosphere,
Right.
I could imagine, in television. And so what do you do as a director when you have so many setups in a day and you have no time? And how do you create this same environment without having people just popping off in the worst version of themselves?
Right. I think what's key always, I go in with at least 3 to 5 versions of the scene. I have my favorite, but I know the scene inside and out. I know that the scene type, I know this is a scene of reconciliation, but I can expose that in a lot of different ways with the staging. Right. So I know how the scene works, backwards and forwards. And then particularly with the actors, that's where it's going to come from. Right. That's where the tensions are going to come from. Everybody's happy to be working. Right. TV crews are amazing. And so the actors might do that. So when I stage the scene, I don't go in and say, stand here, stand there, you stand. I know what I want, but I might say something like this almost every time. You know what? I think she comes through that door. I think she might sit at some point, then go to the bar, make a drink. And maybe she goes to the window and there's the blinds and maybe she opens them. Don't know. So can you help me with that? Right. So what I'm doing there is empowering them to, right. I know exactly where those things should happen, right, in my mind, right. So I'm asking them to help me. I'm not coming in saying, "Hey, here's how it works." I'm simply empowering them, right, because these scenes are simple. Film scenes could not be more basic. It's a single unit of action. One single fucking thing happens. We shouldn't spend 20 minutes talking about it. It's simple. Scene of interrogation, scene of reconciliation, scene of seduction, love scene. So the actor knows how to do that scene, right? Especially if they're doing a procedural show. Scenes of interrogation, that's the entire goddamn show, right? For if you're doing a cop show, that's what you're getting. So they know that. They do them every week. So what you're trying to do is simply acknowledge your respect for them, saying, this is a short little run. I think this is how this works. You tell me if that works for you. And allowing. So as soon as you allow, right, and you back off, so a lot of directors think you put the badge on them. Now they've got to be in charge. I try not to be the smartest person in the room. I've proven that I'm not. I don't need any extra help with that. I want to create an environment where everyone's contributing. and I do it with my DPs as well. I want them to, right, I want to point the direction, and I want you guys to carry me there, right? Let's see what you got, and let's elevate the work. And I agree. That's when you get those days you say, I can't wait to get the set today, right?
Because
that
is the quintessential power of collaboration.
Right.
When you're empowering your team to say, you know what, this is what I was thinking, but what do you want to do with it?
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
And in the book, there was a really thing that I want to highlight because I think our members are going to love this. So you specifically said, you know, as an episodic director, you're brought in as a hired gun. Right. You get brought in, you get up to speed very quickly. You don't get a lot of prep sometimes. And then you're on the set of a working environment that has the stars and the stars of the stars. And then there's obviously all the guest casts, right? What you said in the book, which I loved, was you said that you would wait up to 2 to 3 days to give notes to the stars.
Oh, yeah.
But you would make sure that you would give notes to the guest stars while they were around.
Yes, well, the stars, in front of the stars.
Yes, exactly. So Lydia and I were like, we're reading this in bed, and we're like, oh my God, we have to discuss that. So I love these aha moments. So take us through that whole process and why.
Well, it's respect for people who've been doing something, right, every day, sometimes for 9 or 10 years, right? And you show up, right? The DJ says you're in charge, right? You're the boss. Go in there and tell them, and you get there. But they know their jobs, right? And the key is with the stars especially is to let them. They have to deal with a lot of types of directors. There are good directors, bad directors, in between. So you need to give them time to see how you work. And so I deliberately wait it's usually by the third day where someone says something like, oh, you're a director. And I go, yeah, that's what I'm here for. And they start to listen, or they come to me for an idea and say, what do you think if I do this? And it's when we get into trouble trying to be in charge or trying to force ideas without embracing the collaboration that's necessary, so leaving room. And so the guest stars are happy to have you talk to them. And so the quality of my directing notes to them, right, is really the key. And then the stars then know to embrace it, because the tension is going to come from the stars, right? That's where it comes from, right? And rightly so. I think acting in television has got to be hard every day. New bosses every week, right? And it's crazy. Yeah, the rigor it takes.
I never understood the whole concept of that. I was like, why don't you just do 12, 15 episodes and it's one director and you just prep the whole damn thing like you would do a movie.
Right. Yeah.
Why have all these directors flying in and doing bits and prepping, and then you got a second team and a second DP team and all this stuff. I guess it's efficiency
or something.
But
we don't make the rules.
I never understood the process. I mean, I've embraced it and done it,
right?
But to always kind of question it, like, wow, if we just did this, and I did one of those, The Perfect Couple, which was a limited series. We prepped the whole thing, and I had it was a co-DP, and everyone said, "Oh, so you shot 1, 3, and 5, and he shot 2, 4, and 6." I go, "No, we did the whole thing together."
Wow.
And they're like, wait, what?
It was epic.
Wow.
It was the greatest experience as a director of photography that I think I've ever had.
Wow.
Because we fueled off of each other and we split in two, right?
Wow.
And that way the director could get every piece of us as well as all the crew could. And we just divide and conquer. Roberto took care of all the camera. I took care of all the lighting. We came together on production design. He would handle practicals. I would handle colors. It was unbelievable.
But what made it so great, and we wish this could be, forever, was it also was one of his best friends. So it doesn't get any better than working with your best
we've done
friend
8 movies
together.
together.
And he was insanely equally talented. And so I think it was just like a match made in heaven that hardly ever comes along. But if you could give us an example, Rob, of your process with, guest actors, because I think that this is so interesting to hear and peel back the layer. How do you work with a guest who might be really nervous or who might be new,
Or maybe their big break.
or maybe their first big break and they're just,
Yeah, it's guest stars really have it hard because in many cases they're fine up until the stars show up, and they're just like, oh, there they are,
and they're stars.
and and all of a sudden you have people who've been doing it for years. All of a sudden they don't know their lines anymore. They're all tripped up over each other. I think the key to that is making sure that your blocking is so much of it comes from when we're trying to. I don't think you direct actors. I think you inform them, right? And the blocking is the first place I inform them, right? Because the blocking is going to inform the beats in the scene and will inform the actions that you want them to take within the scene. So you have a scene. Let's pick one character. That character has an overall objective in the scene that they want to achieve. There is an obstacle that creates resistance or the conflict. And then there's an action that they take that starts the scene. When that action doesn't work, right, they shift the tactics and we have another beat that's formed. They have a new action.
Mhm.
And there may be a series of 5 to 7 actions throughout. So once you can give them specific physical beats, it settles them. They understand what the intentions are, what you're trying to do, and then they can settle into that.
The emotion of the
That's
character.
right. It'll inform them what
Mhm.
we're looking for, and it relaxes them. In addition, I try to give them lots of physical things to do because it locks up their all that angst. Right? So simply, I joke cutting carrots. Well, that real action is going to settle them into what they're doing and not get lost in what's happening around them.
Or because the brain starts to think of continuity.
That's right.
Right? So the continuity, okay, I'm going to cut 4 or 5 carrot slices during this scene.
That's correct.
Right? And I have to then repeat that. Well, once you start to get that in your head, you just start to flow with the scene.
That's right.
Because you're taking that angst out. That's
right.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so wise because you're actually embodying. So this is really interesting to get out of anxiety. One of the neuroscience techniques is to do deep breathing that we always hear about,
Sure.
or to blow bubbles like a
Right.
because you're actually tricking your brain to get out of the anxiety. So by giving somebody a specific action,
Correct.
that is so smart because then they can embody
That's right.
and get away from that anxiety or overthinking or whatever they were doing.
Right. We all cut carrots. It's a very basic action, right? It's simple. It's understandable. Or I'll give them a lot of prop-based stuff so that there's one actor who was giving a press conference. She's playing a lieutenant colonel and put the uniform on. She's very stiff in it, but felt the need to be masculine or military-like. And it's a scene in which she's giving a press conference because there was a bombing outside this base and her husband was there and may have been killed. She doesn't know what's happened to him yet. So there's an emotional value in the scene, plus the need to just communicate information. But she was stiff, and I wanted there to be a blend of the need to talk and tell what happened and the emotional value. So instead of asking her for the emotional value of the scene, I simply, right before we rolled, I do this a lot. Right before we rolled, I ran up and I put a tissue in her sleeve, and I whispered to her just in case. So she knew what I was referring to, that there may be some emotion in the playing of this scene without saying, I need you to cry, or I needed this to be emotional. I need you to break down, right? Those props, right? And that's such a, we all have done that, right? The tissue in the sleeve just to have it there, right? That's triggers, right? Same thing with cutting carrots. It triggers, right? Something that we recognize, that we know, and it settles us into the emotion and into what's being asked for in the scene.
And what I love is the curiosity that you're having and you're directing. where you say, just in case, or, oh, maybe this is going to happen, or,
Right.
oh, I don't know. That curiosity actually is so critical
Right.
because you're saying so much without saying anything.
Right. Yeah. You're just inviting them to participate. Right.
Yeah.
Help me.
And that's awesome. Could you also explain, I remember from your book that you talked about the silent take?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, when Lydia and I were reading that, we're like, I've worked in this industry 37, 40 years, 4 decades, and I've never had a director do a silent take.
Wow.
So, yeah, let's drill down on this. So, describe the whole scenario, how it starts, what the benefits are, just kind of like what you did in your book, which
Sure.
you love.
So the silent take I do for two reasons. One for me specifically, and also one for the actor. What a silent take will do is you've blocked it out, right? You have this master of a scene you're going to run, and then you ask the actors to do it without dialogue. So they're going to do all the actions, right, of the scene, all the blocking, and they're going to do it without dialogue. So what it does is it takes them off of just worrying about their lines or thinking about what they're saying, because what they're saying in movies is irrelevant, right? It's what we're doing beneath the surface. It's how we're using the visual story, right, in pictures to move the audience. So taking their focus off of the words and allowing them to simply focus on the actions of the scene. And so if they're not saying anything, all of a sudden they're thinking, oh, what am I doing here? And, there's a character I'm trying to seduce, right? Or interrogate. They start to focus on the actions of the scene, which keeps them rooted in the moment. And the performances grow. I do it for me because that's when right? If you run it and there's without dialogue and you're not interested, that means you didn't solve it visually, right? That means you have a blank slate. So once the dialogue is gone, you can get tricked if people are talking and, hey, that was cute. That was funny. Take the dialogue away and ask yourself, am I intrigued by what's happening? That means you've left out probably a prop that is meant to tell the story, a piece of blocking that is meant to, right, inform the actors. So it reminds you that, hey, okay, this works visually. So for me, it's like a litmus test, right? Do I have a scene here or not? Or do I have just people talking at each other? And that's really the key, because dialogue at its best in movies and TV plays counterpoint to what's happening visually.
And sorry, can I ask, as a non-director, so when you say visually, so this is the emotional arc from the body language?
And also, great question. Also,
I was sorry to interrupt, but I was also going to think of like silent film era.
Yeah, right.
Right? They would put words up in the beginning. There wasn't any of that.
That's right.
Right? Before, graphics and titles and stuff. So what he's kind of describing is you have to feel that when the actor is, say, interrogating somebody. It's their physical presence. Do they lean over them? Right. Do they sit down with them? Are they relaxed and playing good cop, bad cop?
That's right.
That's all without dialogue,
That's
but
right.
Emotionally and physically, you can see that just from their facial expressions.
That's correct. And we also want to involve all the physical elements that are in frame. Camera angle is a big. I did a scene. Two young actors put the scene up, feature film, and it was awful. I thought the actors were horrendous, but I know enough not to blame the actor, right? When something doesn't work, I blame myself immediately and go, okay, what did you do wrong here? And I have on the back of my binder all these maxims, right? Just one-liners, right? And
right here, we got the maxim lines.
Yeah. So I go to the maxims, and I saw a camera angle. I thought, you know what? I really screwed up here. So I pulled the DP aside. I said, look, I made a big mistake here. Would you mind if we shifted the angle? Never said a word to the actors. Shifted the angle, ran the scene, and it was like I had Meryl Streep and her twin sister, I said. Right? It wasn't them. It was me. And so camera angle is going to inform, right, how we view the performance is, right? Light and color, editing, all those visual choices we're making. We're layering the frame with subtext, and we create an equation for the viewer, which is a 2 + 2 = 5 equation. And in that equation, we're asking the viewer to solve this. We're not telling them feel this or think this. We're saying solve this. And that's when they lean in. That's when they say, oh, I get it, right? And they're connected to it. So you want to make sure that all the elements in the frame are going to not be redundant to each other. Light does one thing, music does another, right? Camera angle does another.
Right. A hat on the hat.
That's right. All of these different elements are going to be coordinated like a symphony to come together and move the scene visually forward. So yeah, I'm sorry.
No. So I just had a question. So
Sure.
let's say that you do this silent take
Yeah.
and it's just not working.
Uh-huh.
Let's say that you change the camera, going back to your example,
Right.
you change the camera and it's just a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do?
I probably would go to the my first after camera angle. It's blocking. That means my blocking's off, right? Because the blocking is how we inform performances and how we talk to the audience too. They're watching those physical actions, and we understand that language, right? We understand physical actions. Really, we lie all the time as human beings. We have to get through the day, to survive, right?
Mhm.
We have to sometimes just simple little lies. How you doing today? Great. I'm doing great. Okay. May not be the case, right? Language is a great tool to keep people at a distance, but the physicality is what we're really reading, right? Engaging from people. And so we want to put those those ideas in the blocking so that it informs the actor and the viewer. So if it wasn't camera angle, I'd go right to blocking. But long before, the last place I want to go is to the actor.
Right.
The last, right? Because as soon as I open my mouth, I run the risk of ruining and sucking the life out of a performance, right? So
That you haven't even heard yet.
that's correct. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's hands off for the actor. And you think about it, we're simply asking him to do 2 minutes. And then we as directors have to get in there and start talking all this. Shut up. Right? Who are you to explain this love scene to this beautiful woman and this beautiful man? I think they get it, right? Stay away. Do your job, block it, right? Set the camera angle, right? Set all the other elements and then get out of the way. So the last person is the actor.
Okay, so, and again, just following the thread, so you have a checklist in your mind of things, and I love this because I think this is so important for cinematography. I think it's important for directing. But what if it is the acting? And what if the actors are just having the worst day of their lives, which happens, or they've had a death in the family and they're just checked out,
Right.
or their dog died, or like there's a million physical things that could happen.
Right.
So how do you handle that? Because I know that, over the years we've talked about like actors have really bad days.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a couple things I do is I pull them aside and talk to them first, and just ask, everything okay today? You just have a conversation with them and try to find out what's going on. But then even in those cases, we have a bag of tools. Shane and I do. We can go on set, and even if the performance is not working, I had a scene with a young kid, really sweet kid, but he was playing a scene, TV show, and he's about to meeting his girlfriend to say goodbye forever. She did not know that he was about to commit suicide in the next scene. So sweet kid, he's not going there, right? There's not a dark moment in his life. You can't see it. It's not there. He doesn't have it, right? So I'm not going to go to him and say, yeah, so you're about to kill yourself. How do you feel? Let's dig down, or let's figure this out. I've got 6 minutes to put this scene up. And he's not going to go there most likely. So I'd much rather call my DP aside and say, hey, do me a favor. Just like this kid from one side. And what that does is create a mystery, right? Here's all black, here's lit. That mystery on frame is going to do more for him than anything else, right? And not only that, I got a call from the network the next day, and they said, what? How did you get that performance from that kid? I said, well, my DP lit him from one side. So I'd love to say, hey, I pulled it from him and I worked it and it's light, right? We can't forget that so much of what we do is just light and blocking. And those are the tools of our trade. And so even when someone is not showing up, we can still do something from our side of it. And I joke about this, but I ask myself the question, if I hit a problem, I say, does this character need to be on screen? Can they be in the other room, right? What happens if I put them behind a door today, right? And they're talking through the door, right? Oh, wow, that might be interesting, right? All of a sudden, you go right down to the basics. Do they need to be here? Yes or no? And if they do need to be here, now how can we adjust how we perceive them? That's going to help that performance. And the cool thing about that kid is he gave his best performance, but it was not me, that it was the light that informed him.
That's so interesting. Okay, one more question, because I'm fascinated by all of this. I think directing and, cinematography, there's so many layers.
Yes.
So what do you do if people are acting out of control on set? And I'm talking specifically actors, or let's say just a crew member is completely out of control. And let's pretend the department head cannot get them under control.
Right. I take him aside and have a really kind of honest conversation with him, and I'll look at it from my point of view, where of someone who I discovered this guy was a major problem, but he physically hit people and kicked people, and it's like, come on, you're being paid so much money to be here. These guys are making nothing, right? And you treat them this way. But the thing to do is to pull him aside. I caught him. He ran after a scene. I did a third take because the guest star, really good actress, she stumbled a little bit, and I wanted to give her another take. So I went back to the set after that third take, to the monitor. He was complaining to the writer and the producer about me. And I just let him talk. And then as he walked off, I followed him. And I just pulled him aside. I said, hey, you know what? I heard what you said. And you don't need to do that, right? You got a problem. We're adults. You come to me. Ask me the question, right? And if we'll solve it that way, right? Going to them doesn't solve anything. That's just bitching, right? If you have a legitimate problem, come to the guy who caused you the discomfort, and I will solve it for you. I will make that happen. So, and at that point, the problem with those guys is they're bullies, and you can't do it around people because they love it, right? They want to explode in front of people on you. So I pull them aside, and bullies deflate really fast when you are alone with them. And that's, I think, just talking to them honestly and kind of making sure they understand what the ground rules are, right? You don't get to go to that person and complain about me.
Right. I'm your leader here.
Yeah. Unacceptable. And you can do better than that,
Yeah. Now, what if this were to happen, let's say, in the middle of a take, or in a very public on-set where the whole crew is there situation?
Where someone is trying to either
Sabotage, or how would you handle that?
Again, you can't ignore it, right? Because it'll just keep happening. So the key is to, the same actor, right? Shouted out he insulted me in some way. He was we were in a coffee shop, he was at the table, and there was an actress he was trying to impress. And I was back in the monitor, and I heard him yell something about me. But totally unacceptable. I just pull him aside again and try to talk him through what my standards were and how he needed to treat me. And he could continue to do that, but I would continue to, I talk to him, explain these are the ground rules. I also go to great lengths, particularly with films, some with TV, depending on the show. But I have a big meeting with everyone about complaining and bitching. I think bitching will just suck the life, because people just bitch to bitch sometimes, because they're unhappy. Maybe they don't feel recognized or seen. But I tell them, guys, this is a zero bitch, right? Film set. I don't want
It's
to hear
poison.
it. Yeah, don't want to hear it. So if you've got a legitimate problem that you're having, bring it to me and I'll solve it for you. But this bitching just drains us, right? It's really an excuse for kind of setting themselves up to protect themselves from bad performances, right? In which they're just going to bitch and the show sucks and the movie sucks and the script sucks and everybody sucks. And I don't want to hear it, right? I'm going to go somewhere else with all of this. And,
Yeah, I mean, I find a lot of times crew members will, depending on if the producers are very tight with the money and they're just trying to, say no a lot,
right?
And they tend to bitch about this, right? And it was like, I just kind of always try to diffuse that bomb and saying, this is what we all signed up for, right?
That's right.
We all know what the days are. We all know that it's going to be difficult and everything. Now, if you want to vent, let's do that after the call wrap. Right? Vent with me and say, yeah, what is going on? Da, 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 da. But when we're in creative mode, it's like we just got to go. And we gotta take it for what it is and make the best of it.
That's right.
Because there's not and bitching is like what you said, it's poison.
It is. It is.
To the process. And there, of course, there's always times when you're going to be like, well, I just want to vent on this. And I catch myself doing it a lot too. I was like, well, if we just had one more 18K, we wouldn't have been dealing with this shit. Right. And, it's like, oh God, I shouldn't have said that, because now I'm bitching. I'm the problem,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like those.
But I think what's really important about this is that you stand up for your team in terms of hours, in terms of if overtime is happening, in terms of all of that. But what we're talking about really is grumbling.
That's what grumbling.
Yes.
Grumbling.
Negativity. It's really just that poisonous. And from an energetic standpoint, it actually lowers the energetic vibration of the whole set. So everything becomes worse.
Right.
The acting becomes worse. The lighting becomes worse. The AD has a harder time keeping everything on time. Everything goes wrong because it is a ripple effect of grumbling.
Yeah, and it breeds cynicism, and cynicism is death, I think, to artists. Right? We cannot be cynical.
No.
It's and I think, but preemptive. The meetings are important. I make sure that it's in the book. Every day after we wrap, I track down every crew member.
Oh, I do the same. I'm just constantly
shaking
them, and a lot of times they'll like say, don't hug me. And I'm like, I hug them and they're sweaty as hell, and I'll give them a big bear hug and just thank them. And they always want to take their glove off. And I'm like, you're in it. Don't worry about it. Handshake, it's like that camaraderie it goes so far with the crew.
That's right.
And a lot of people always say, I've been working in this industry for 20 some odd years and I've never had the DP ever come up and shake my hand.
Yeah.
And it's like when you hear those things, you're on the right path.
That's right.
Because that is how it has to change.
That's correct.
It's like I remember, and, I had really good mentors and then I had some really shitty ones. And the ones that were shitty were, it's a and vroom, you heard the Porsche starting.
That's right.
And I'm like, wait, I just gave my soul to this individual and boom, gone. And those were, that was the 80s and the 90s for sure, man. It's like if
true.
they were, you couldn't even get the word app out. The ruh was all they needed, and you heard the Porsche starting.
That's right.
And I think that, we just have to, as the world is changing, as the inclusion of really respecting everyone's point of view,
Correct.
and why they might feel that way. Did I say something that really, because I'm so sorry, I didn't mean that. And it's like this whole process with how HR is really in kind of hunkered down the industry, I don't see as a bad thing.
Right.
I see as a thing of respect,
Right.
and consistency and positivity,
Right.
for trying to create the most creative work environment possible.
That's correct.
And
And
yes,
safe.
there's also the time of like,
Mhm.
oh, you can't hug somebody. Oh, you can't say they're nice looking. It's like you can push those things as far as you want to, because, and now it's like, I'm a hugger. Are you? And they'll go, no, I'm not. And I'm like, okay, well, have a great day. I mean,
Or high five or
yeah,
whatever.
whatever it is. But it's
Comfortable
like,
with.
yeah, whatever anyone is comfortable with. But before, that would never have been asked.
Right.
You just did.
Right.
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 And I think that it's safety too,
Yeah.
because given the whole, awful Helena Hutchinson thing, and I mean and you talk about safety in your book. And so I think, what do you believe? And we could talk to you all day. So I really want
This is great.
I want to start to wrap up soon, but
Well, I got two more questions that I want to ask him. So go down your road and then we go there.
Okay. So what do you think directors first starting out, or people that are transitioning into directing, as a seasoned director, what do you wish you'd known?
I think probably there's a lot of craft stuff, right? Obviously, right? You're just learning and growing and all that stuff. But if I had only had a clearer sense of what my purpose was earlier, that would have been more useful to me, right? Trying to identify, why am I doing this, right? What we talked about before. I think in spending a good deal of time, because once you lock on that, once you know what your purpose is, and you know the kind of movie you want to make because of that, then you can target the industry with great precision. Then you're not trying to do what we all do, which is keep the door open to everything and hope that we don't lose opportunities, right? But as soon as we get precise and specific, we've increased opportunities, because now we know where the jobs are. Now we know who's making these movies. Now we know where to put all of our energies. And part of that whole thing about how do you build a life around it and not become only about your job, right? As soon as you know that, this 15% of the industry, that's where my future is. That's where they make my movies. They understand me. They'll get me. So understanding that, so you can be really precise about how you put your energies out, right? Who's most likely to hire you based on your belief systems and the kind of movies you want to make. That will narrow the search down. But I know that we end up doing anything and everything for everyone because we're afraid we'll never get work. And I understand that fear. I suffered it for a while, but I wish I had a clearer sense of that earlier on, or that I should even put time into figuring that out. But that would be the one thing I want them to. I think that's what I'd want.
Yeah, I think that's really cool, because I think finding your purpose and also preconceived notions too. Like, I had a director that I worked with that his style was very much like showing examples and showing movies and doing all this stuff, and then using a lot of those elements to tell a story. And I saw that as like, okay, well, aren't we just duplicating this? Is this something that we're duplicating? And then I was like, also there were directors that, preconceived notion, you're the director. Aren't you supposed to create the shot list? Aren't you supposed to create the blocking? And then this was preconceived. And all of a sudden I said to myself, why am I preconceiving this? If the director is hiring me to shoot the movie, I'll start shot listing it. I'll start, coming up with concepts and everything. And then, hey, I'll show it to you.
Right.
And do you like this? And if you like where I'm headed, I'll keep on going.
Right.
And I've had directors where after I got rid of that preconceived thing that is their job,
Right.
they were like, I go, so what do you think about the first 30 scenes? And he goes, that's your job.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. Shit, I'm on board. I'll start going, and I'll continue to go, and I was like, oh my God, this preconception, because every director's different.
Right.
But you have to break through those preconceptions and just find out their style.
Right.
How they like to direct.
Exactly.
Some like to just show up and read it through with the actors and talk about the blocking and everything and rehearse for hours.
Right.
And then they see it.
Right.
And then we're there to, almost like lightning in a bottle, whip it together.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Working with those style of directors, you have to have plan A, B, and C ready.
Yes.
And an arsenal of a crew to react.
Right.
Right. Because a lot of the pre-lighting and pre-rigging and everything that would normally be there is a waste sometimes.
Sure.
Right. So, and then I also think like, okay, finally working with this director a lot, I finally saw, what am I doing? I've been fighting this idea of him, taking scenes and repurposing them. And I was like, oh my God, think about the genius behind this direction. I was like, and I'm like, 30 years in and I'm still learning. And that's the wonderful of this craft. And what you said specifically in one of your classes, you will never master this craft.
Right.
It is a journey, and a journey that's going to have you as an artist have 6 or 7 different styles, if not 20.
Right.
Right. And it's the people you work with and how that is done. But then I was like, oh my God, he's repurposing this stuff. So when you're in the theater, you're seeing it fresh with these actors, but you're remembering this moment that's a throwback to a movie that you remembered, and now you're experiencing it twice. The impact is tenfold.
Never relationship
I'm like,
with it.
why was I fighting this? I'm like, why aren't we coming up with new ideas and this and that? And it was like, oh my God. But, there it is. Shane last to the, no, that, last to figuring it out.
You're constantly shifting mindset as you grow internally.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important.
Yeah. I mean, it was such an aha moment for me. And then it was like, everyone else was like, what's going on here? Why are we doing this? And I'm like, don't you see the genius? And then I became the cheerleader. I became the cheerleader for something that I was literally shitting on. Right. And it's like those moments, and that is, I think, what's so intoxic about what we do. The creative process, because it does take time. Right. It does take time for you to learn and then adapt. And the director was 10, 15 years ahead of me. And it took me this long to really catch up.
Yeah.
And once I caught up, holy crap, was I throwing gasoline on that flame.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where all of a sudden it was like some of the best work we've ever done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you're working together. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
What,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what is your other question?
For our audience, which we have, I try to do as much as we try to fill out as many crafts as we can within Filmmakers Academy. We like to always try to do some cinematography adjacent questions.
Sure. Great.
Okay. So I want, and this is so good for members to hear. It's like, what do you find that makes a great DP that you want to work with? What is it? They're real? Is it the people that they've worked with in the past? Is it what you've heard from other people? quantitate what that is, and then talk about how you work specifically with the communication with the DP.
Sure.
And I think this will really educate a lot of members that are aspiring cinematographers and people moving up and stuff. And they're looking for, because I get asked this question, what is the DP director communication? And also, I want to do as much of this teaching where it's because there's a specific how directors look at cinematographers. Of course, it's got all different things.
Right.
But let's hear your perspective of what attracts you to one and not another.
Sure.
And what guides you in that process.
Sure. So, most likely we've seen a reel, right, before they show up. So I've got some idea as to the technical proficiency, and the kinds of movies they've worked on. So what levels they're working at, who they've been working with. So you got some background information, but that's just the prerequisite that gets you in the door. Where for me, I start to really kind of sift through people is that I want to have them come to a meeting and talk about the characters and about the human story and the journey. And we'll have a real conversation, an in-depth conversation about who these people are, because that's where our work starts, right? And everything, right? All of your technical skills, all of my technical skills can be combined to find the best way to illuminate that. But we have to agree on who are we talking about, right? And what we find interesting about them. So that's really where it's the humanity in all of it. I want them to come in talking about that first.
So I'm going in for the interview. And one of the things that I've used in the past is even back in before the internet, I would come in with my canvas bag, my mag bag, and you see the 400 some reference books that are all slayed within here. And I would have this bag, and I would have everything marked for composition, for light, for tone, mood, and inspiration. And I would come in with a point of view. Do you like that?
Yes. Yeah, I want to know what you're bringing to the table, and the fact that you've taken the time to do that for me, so I don't have to kind of dig and try to find it and look for it. You're presenting your point of view, and it's really important to be very specific about it and not to waver, right? Because I don't want to see anyone trying to get a job. I want them to be saying, "Hey, here's what I do. I hope it works out. I'd love to work with you on this project," right? Not trying to angle to get a job, simply saying, here's who I am. Here's what I do. Here's what I would do for this project, right? This is the take I would have on it. What do you think? Right. And we start a conversation, right? So I can say then, well, I don't see it that way exactly. So explain to me, here are my concerns. Where can we meet in the middle, right? Or is it important for us to meet in the middle? It starts a real conversation. The rest of the time, we're just shooting. We're both lying to each other about everything.
Exactly. And that's the thing where because I like to teach a lot of my members is like, come in with a point of view.
Strong, yeah.
Right? Strong point of view, not a wishy-washy. And I would also, now that we have the internet, I would create these monstrous lookbooks with all the same stuff. And I would say, I was talking to some of my peers and I said, I go in with a lookbook and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And they go, why would you do that? And I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, if you don't get the job, they're just going to steal your ideas. And I'm like, do we really live in that world?
That's right.
If I go to the movie and I didn't get the gig and I see some of my ideas on screen, I'm like, all right, that's awesome.
It works.
It works.
Yeah.
So, and maybe some of those ideas were kind of crazy and they executed them, maybe even took a different tone.
Right.
But it worked.
Correct.
So that only benefits me.
Yeah, you win.
You win both ways.
Right.
And what people have to stop thinking is this goddamn gatekeeping bullshit.
Right.
And, if I give somebody an idea, they're going to steal it. And that is such what is the mindset, Lydia?
Limited.
There you go.
Limited mindset. So
I agree 100%.
Right. So it's like having that point of view coming in I'm so glad you're saying that that you like that. So I'm good. I'm going to tell a great story that happened with Bill Paxton.
Oh,
So I went in like I always did with my bag and my reference books, and we sat down, and, directors, each time I've been interviewed, they all start all different ways. But Bill sat me down, we shot the shit for a little bit, and then he goes, "All right, Shane, what's my movie going to look like?" Right? And I was like, "Oh, awesome." And I pull out the book and I go, "This is what your movie's going to look like. Bound for Glory."
wow.
And all of a sudden he goes, "Oh, really?" And I go, "Oh, shit." I just overstepped.
Internally, he was like,
And I was like, this is the end. And I really wanted this movie, right? And he stands up, looming over me, right? And I love Bill Paxton as an actor.
Me too.
And as a human being, he was just amazing individual. And he turns around and shows me his back. And I was like, oh, God, this is not going to end well. And he pulls out this book and he slams it down on the table. And he goes, "No, this is what this movie's going to look like." And it was the same.
I love that.
And it was, and
that was it.
from that point on, it was amazing,
Correct.
the interview. And I want a shout out on this because I don't know if you have done this, but I want all directors to hear this from a cinematographer and from even a technician standpoint. He's the only director in my whole career that I was driving home from that interview, and all of a sudden I saw an 805 area code, and I was like, oh, I remember him saying he lived in Ojai. And I took the call, and I go, "Hello?" And he goes, "Hello, Shane, this is Bill Paxton." "Hey, Bill, how are you? I just wanted to tell you, I want you to shoot my movie." And that's the only time I've ever gotten called by a director telling me that I got the movie.
That he booked the gig.
Wow.
It always has come through.
Yeah.
Why is that not done more often?
I agree. That's got to be.
Do you?
No, it's always, everything is handled through agents and producer, and it's just.
But this is the bond.
Movie right there. Yeah,
that's the movie. This is the bond between us. And what I do too is I have always remembered that, and I make sure that every crew I book, I call them up physically. I don't have the producer or a production manager or some production coordinator telling they got the job. I call them up and say, "Thank you so much for being, you had a great interview. I loved your energy. Let's make this movie together."
Yeah.
And I just remembered that. And we have to start to take all the bullshit out of it and just be a human being. And the way I felt once I got that call, I remember coming home and telling Lydia that, and it was one of the greatest experiences of my whole career on that movie. And that was the start of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's all part of it, right? Obviously, right. That's the seeds were planted that day. And they just grow from there. Yeah, that's a great story.
It is. And I think what's so important is it's the ripple effect of gratitude.
Yeah.
Like, you're my person. I want you to, shoot this incredible movie with me. And I think that it just comes across differently when it's from the horse's mouth.
Yes.
Versus, and it's wonderful when an agent says, "Oh my God, you got it, congratulations," but it's not the same.
Right. No. You're not working with the agent.
No.
It's been filtered through 5 or 6 people to get to the
right. They've all put themselves in line.
Yes.
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 Yeah, I agree. That's a great story.
And it was like the heart and the feeling and the love for that was so deep that it was like I would climb up 52 Mount Everest that Bill Paxton.
That's correct.
And that started with that one gesture.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And
it's amazing.
I think the other thing is obviously directors that you work with on repeat, then it becomes, I have this project, or,
Right.
I have this movie coming up and I can't wait to shoot it with you. That's equally impactful.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll never forget that. Mick G and I did We Are Marshall together.
Right.
And that was such an amazing story. Like, it's
Mhm.
so tragic and everything what happened to that town and the whole,
Yeah.
all the individuals. And
Yeah. Great film, by the way.
oh, thank you. But I'll never forget coming in and talking to him about, we were going to go into the color bay and we were just talking about the look and everything that we were going to achieve, because this was still photochemical at the time, but DI, so we were just getting all our ducks in a row. And he turns to me and he goes, "Are you ready to reinvent the Terminator franchise?" And I was like, "Oh, hell yeah." And that had the same love and heart and everything with him saying that.
Right.
Because it came directly from him. It wasn't watered down by producers and agents and everything else. It was him just saying, let's do this together.
Right.
And let's take the hill.
So good. So good. You got to tell that story as much as possible.
No, it's exactly right. Because these are the stories that matter.
Right.
Because that ripples not only through me, but then I'm rippling through that all my career with my crew. And that's a domino effect.
That's right. For sure. Right.
Yeah.
And we can take that on as a responsibility and make sure we put that out there, right, regularly and pay it forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's so good. Great story.
Okay, so now, what's your communication and collaborative? You kind of talked about the message and the purpose and all that stuff that you do, but how is the day-to-day? And what are those, kind of thought processes with blocking, with shot lists, all that stuff, so people can really take away from this?
I don't want to be, well, I know exactly what I think is going to work, right? I want to find out what the DP, right? I'm hopefully they have an idea, right? So I want to make sure that I talk to them in terms the same way I would talk to a composer, right? I know something about what it is. I've been around a long time. I kind of know what you do, but not really, right? It would be an insult, right, for me to think I could actually do what you do in some way. So I really try to talk to them in terms of what is my overall sense of what the tone is, or my impression of the scene, what I'd like the scene to achieve, right? How I think the light might arc in the scene, right? How I would like to potentially use the light in the scene or the blocking. But I use it as a conversation opener, right? It's not, here's what I want. So I've spent 6 months or 3 months, right, building my plan. I've given it my shot, right? And, I'm going to assume that you, right, are going to make it better. And so I don't want to say, do this, do that. I do want to know what your opinion is, right? And so I'll put out there what my plan is. And my prayer is that you will make it better. And I'm open. I say yes to almost all new ideas, right? Especially the ones I don't trust. So I think, because the only thing there's something special that could happen out of this, right? Because I know that I've been around a bit. I've worked some, right? I've traveled the world a little bit, but I don't trust that I know it all. And I've seen the world through my narrow little perspective. So I don't have all the answers, and I'm desperate for someone else to bring another point of view. So it's the notes or the suggestions, or if the DP says, hey, what if we did this? I'm inclined to say yes before you finish speaking, because I know you didn't just fucking pull it out of the air, right? Let's try it. The worst that could happen is it doesn't work, right? We can recover. There's no single shot, no single scene, no single sequence that will sink your movie, right? But if you find that gold, right, that someone, I'm not quite sure where you're headed yet, but yes, let's go. Let's do it right now. I think that's key. And you want that. I want that with all my collaborators, especially the DP. So I try not to lead too much, right? Set the overall vision, but then let people contribute, empower them, because that's why I also have a really I'm not a fan of the auteur theory. I get, it makes me angry to think that someone would put their name above the title or above the project. I think it's a fucking insult to 150 other great filmmakers who have made your movie, right? Yes, you set the vision, great. But you know what? There are too many people who've added, who've collaborated, and it's our movie, right? If you want to find a way to say that, fine. But to say that this is my movie is really sad and pathetic. I think we really need to, like, the whole auteur theory has got to be, I there may be two or three people in our business who deserve it at any given time or on a specific project. But for the most part, look at all of us working, right? A lot of people showed up 12, 14, 16 hours a day. And so you're saying you made this. If you had a piece of canvas and a brush and some paint and you painted that, you're on. You are the auteur of that painting.
Yes.
But for the rest of this, let's just drop all the bullshit, drop the ego, drop the vanity, drop all of this crap, and just say that we're all doing this together. And your job is to point the direction, right? Our job is to get you there and improve on it. And so I like to be a little more open, but that doesn't mean show up unprepared. What it does mean is prepare within an inch of your life.
Yes.
And then let it go.
Correct.
Right? Because I can always use those. That's why I say 3 to 5 versions of a scene. The most I've done is 16 versions before I showed up. 16 because here's the reason. First day on a procedural in which I knew the lead actor was a problem. First scene up, first day on this particular show is on a jet. And it's all these special agents, right? Just 6 of them plus 2 other characters. So 8 people, 16 seats. And I heard that this particular actor liked to challenge the directors on this particular show. So I said, okay, I have was a 9-page scene, 8 characters, 16 seats, right? And all this exposition, I needed to be able to like rack to this person and hear this piece of exposition and this person would get up and we jumped. It all had to be calibrated. And if the actor says, I would never sit here, and you don't have a backup plan, right? Your choices are to fight, which doesn't turn out well for you, or to give into a plan that may not be good. So I had 16 versions of this scene and went in. I said, I'm not getting tripped up today, right? First day on a new show, you as a director, you'll never come back, right? So 16 versions. I said, okay, guys, let's just hear the dialogue. Let's try it here, man. You start there, you start there, you start there, you start there. Okay, let me hear the dialogue. Hear the dialogue. Everybody, you good? Good. Everybody good? Good. Okay. And then I hear from the back, I would never sit here. I thought, okay, I got you. All right. So it was this star. He said, I would never sit back here. I said, okay, where would you sit? He said, I'd sit over there. I said, good. You sit there, then you sit there, you sit there, you sit there, you sit there, you sit there. And the crew was like, what just happened? Right? Because I sidestepped, right? A real problem. I'd have to argue with him, right? But I had 16 versions that I knew worked based on the seat he wanted to sit in. So preparation is key.
Yes.
I'm not saying don't prepare. What I'm suggesting is prepare and let it go, right? And then come in and listen to everybody around you, listen to your movie. So I think the movie is shifting and growing and changing. Now you're sitting alone at your desk, right? What do you know? You show up, oh, here's the real set, here are the real people now. All of a sudden things start to shift and adjust. And if you ignore that, right, you're missing out on the immediacy of filming, right? And you want to capture immediacy. And so that's really the key to I think at that level, you want to listen to everyone around you, listen to you, but you're listening through prep, through knowledge, right, through control, and then you're able to make decisions and open the door to some really special, magical things. Otherwise, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I want to kind of throw this out to all the members and everyone that's listening is that, we also, like you said, prepare, but let it go.
Right.
Because there's going to be changes that blow up your whole thing that you had planned. And I'll never, it's like I had so many, and going back to the bitching thing, where the minute you're like, okay, we got to move this 12 by and 20 by and over there, and the group's like, we got to move this thing again. Don't you ever know what the hell's going on, Shane? You know, and I'm
Work with that guy.
and it's like, no. I know what's going on. That's why we're moving it. That's right. But it's like, and I've had times where, like a director would come to me with full confidence. He goes, "This Shane, I like to do single camera, and this is how I like to roll, and we're not going to do multiple cameras. This is how I like to shoot." Day one, comes up to me and goes, "Oh my God, this actress is all over the place. She's like a wild horse. I need 3 cameras now." And it's like that moment was like, I saw it as, you got it, because I saw it as well.
Yeah.
Like one time she'd hold a spoon, the next time she wasn't holding it at all. And I'm thinking, and we had a 2-week discussion about over the shoulders being some of the most powerful camera angles in a movie.
Yeah.
Because it relates the characters, it gets you so on the eye line,
Right.
and it's really emotional connection.
Right.
And if they're not doing the same thing, he's not going to be able to use the best takes.
Right.
Right. So he saw that moment and he realized, oh my God, everything that we had prepped for, everything that we had talked about was going to go out the window. And I was like, you got it. And I was like, all right, 3 cameras. And my camera crew, of course, is like, what the hell was 3 cameras? You know, you told us this was a single camera show. And I'm like, oh my God. But this is a mentality and a mindset that I think it's not for us not being prepared.
Right.
We are prepared.
Mm-hmm.
We are coming in with a plan. I mean, my plans are Bibles.
Right. That's right.
Right? But there's times where the Bible has to be thrown out and you just got to go with what is happening
in the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
And not complain about it, not bitch about it. It's our job to react.
That's right.
Right?
See it as an opportunity.
Yes.
It's going to get better now.
It's going to be 10 times better.
Right.
Right? And all the
You're going to get more cut
on the living room floor because the person wasn't matching the continuity.
Right.
Now we're going to be on, and the movie's going to deliver the emotional connection to the audience. So it's like for all crews out there, this is a mindset to understand. And there's going to be times when these curveballs come in, and I'm throwing a C camera, and they're like, we don't have a C camera crew. And I go, look at this. This is the opportunity. That second AC said he wanted to be a first AD. Right. Let's move him up. He's going to get bumped up today, going to pull focus, and I'll operate the camera. And where's the problem here?
Right.
This is awesome. Everyone's working out, right? They're going to get bumped up. We're all working as a machine. We're actually going to get done sooner because now we're shooting with 3 cameras.
Right.
Oh my God. So that bitching thing that you keep on driving down, it's good to come back to.
It is. And if I could add on a positive note as we wrap this up here, meditation actually really prevents a lot of that bitching that we've been talking about. And the negativity and the quieting your mind, because it makes the mind more flexible. And the reason that people go back into, oh, wow, why are we doing this? Because they're in fear mode. And when you're in fear mode, then you go right into the unconscious training that the brain does that may or may not be our best version.
Oh, wow.
And so I think once we understand that they're not doing it on purpose, right? Just to be rigid and inflexible, it's their defense mechanism in the subconscious mind just coming forth and going into action.
With the change.
Because
the change is scary. Everything, right? And it's like they've obviously plotted and planned their crew size. They've plotted and planned everything, right? Based on our plan, right?
And the day is safe.
And it's safe to everyone. They know what's going on. And then this curveball comes in. I call it Plan C for curveball. Right. And now that change is scary.
Yeah.
So, okay. I love how you're spinning this to positivity. That's right.
So it's that heart center. Have compassion and just be like, oh, that person's in fear mode in their brain. Got it.
Got it.
And so that way it's ending on a very positive note. And you are both of you, I have to say, are such incredible leaders. But I think really understanding a little bit of the brain science for the reaction helps people jump into that compassion center of their brain. So anyway, thank you so much.
This is great. Thank you for having me. This has been, I've had this fun in a long time. That's great.
We love to hear that because we like to have the conversation take us in all different places,
whatever.
and also be vulnerable. Because I've made a lot of mistakes in my career, and a lot of successes, and I'm trying to fuel as much of this positive,
right,
and try to enhance the experience for filmmakers in general. Like what you said, it's like when you start this domino effect and paying that forward, like the Bill Paxton, you're on my movie, and those kind of things, they start to become a lot more bigger than just you and I talking about.
That's right. That's correct. And that story will be told and passed on again and again and again. It'll be told to my friends and my wife tonight, right? It's
exactly.
Yeah. How could you not want to tell that story?
Yeah. Right.
And it's just to hear those words, you're on my movie.
Right.
Yeah. So beautiful. So, Rob, thank you so much.
This was great.
And
I had a great time.
Oh, well, it was so great. Please come back.
I will.
To do a part 2. Yeah. And that wraps up this Inner Circle podcast.